it's moving forward in terms of cultural transformation or cultural change. And if we can change the way we think about things and change the way we envision things through sound, I think that's going to help the process of revolution. And so a very interesting thing is the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, you know, and people's resistance to kind of this notion of one nation under the Star-Spangled Banner. And, you know, that's why over time there have been people advocating for a different national anthem. Like, some people feel that America the Beautiful could be more inclusive.
You choose jazz as the medium?
It's probably because of Malcolm X. Well, first off, it was the music. So when I was in junior high, I used to hang around the band room. So he took the opportunity to play jazz records. So that's how I heard about Charlie Parker, heard his records, heard Coleman Hawkins, and then actually my organizing, affinities came out at that time because I would drag my friends in to hang out. So anyway, I got introduced to Malcolm X's story, and then, you know, the 60s was happening all around us. There was all the assassinations, and in particular, you know, Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy in the same year. And then by the time I was in high school then, so I was already introduced to jazz. Because of course Harlem as a community was a real, you know, it's a real community. So you know, people said, you know, Malcolm X was giving a talk and then John Coltrane would be in the audience. So I began to make the connection between jazz and Black liberation movement. Revolutionaries who were musicians. So Max Roach was one of the more prominent folks, like the South African pianist Abdullah Ibrahim. He was a member of the ANC. So I mean, that was kind of important to know about Abdullah Ibrahim because, you know, he's a member of a revolutionary political party, and he was, you know, a composer. And
Max Roach.
Okay, well, I only played once with him. He signed with our label, Asian Improv. He made that a point, you know. Because we could have just shook hands and made this record, but he made it a point, which is correct, is that there be a written contract. And so we wrote up a contract, he signed it, and he signed to our label. He also was recognizing that there was a certain transmission going on, connected. You know, I said, well, John and I started this label, and he says, yeah, I know what that's like, you know, because I started a label with Charles Mingus. Debut Records. So, and Debut Records actually, even though the whole point was for artists to record their own work and decide what they want to record. And the most famous record they had at Debut Records was this thing called The Greatest Jazz Concert Ever or something like that. It was Charlie Parker, Max Roach, Bud Powell. You know, well, anyway, so Dizzy Gillespie, Charles Mingus, right? And so it's one of the most famous records ever made, and it was made by an independent label that was artist owned at the time. So he was very conscious about this idea of transmission and what he was transmitting to us, very conscious of it. So most of what we did with him was John's collaborations with Max. But there was this one concert we gave in San Francisco, Sister Cities. It was about Shanghai and San Francisco. And he came, and I got a chance to play. Because when he came out on stage, and John asked him what he wanted to do, he says he wanted to play some duets, improvised duets. And then, so, that was great. And then, so John says, who do you want to start with? And he pointed at me. And so usually Max was known as not wanting to play old songs, kind of more about innovation, right? But when he wanted to do for our duet, I says, well, so Max, what are we going to do? And he says, he hummed a few notes from Billy's Bounce and then counted it off. And we went. So that was kind of different, or unexpected, which of course that should be expected from Max. But anyway, so there was a sense that, a very deliberate sense on his part, or intentional, in terms of connecting with us as Asian Americans. And so we did a lot of things, like we did concerts, and he played at the Asian American Jazz Festival in Chicago. We all went to Chinatown, Chicago Chinatown, this restaurant, Seven Treasures. And there he was, Max Roach, eating some chow mein, So that was kind of like what it was like with Max, at least for me. It's kind of like we had known of his work and we were following his example, but he was closing the loop. To me, I just felt like he was like closing the loop, in terms of the direct connection. This is in honor of Colin Coward. Yay!